Imagine lying in your bed at night. The lights are off, the neighborhood is completely asleep, and your house is perfectly, flawlessly still. You can hear the faint sound of your own breathing, maybe the occasional settling of the floorboards. But then, just at the edge of your perception, it begins. A low, persistent vibration, a droning hum that seems to just entirely bypass your ears and physically rattle the very bones of your skull. You get up, you check the fridge, you walk through the dark and look out the window for an idling truck, but there is absolutely nothing there. The sound is everywhere and nowhere. Welcome to this explainer. Today we are going to completely unmask a terrifying global phantom sound that haunts millions of people in the dead of night. It's a genuine auditory nightmare that defies common sense, it shatters lives, and frankly, it has baffled the brightest scientific minds for half a century. Let's get into it.
I want you to think about your own experiences for a second here. Have you ever felt this inescapable low-frequency buzzing when everything else was completely quiet? If you have, you are absolutely not alone, even though the experience itself feels profoundly isolating. You might actually just be one of the estimated 2 to 4% of the global population affected by what is ominously known simply as the hum. You see, for the vast majority of us who don't hear it, the world is quiet, it's peaceful. But for that select 4%, reality is this unending, low-frequency terror that stalks them inside their own homes, day after day, night after night, with literally no escape. And look, this isn't just some modern internet creepypasta or an isolated oddity. It is a creeping, localized terror that has steadily marched across the globe over the decades. The earliest really reliable reports we have date back to the mid-1970s with the infamous Bristol hum over in the UK. At the time, dozens of panicked letters were flooding the local Evening Post from residents who were utterly, completely convinced they were losing their minds. Then the phenomenon jumped across the ocean to North America. By 1991, it became the Taos hum in New Mexico, which gained this massive international notoriety and media coverage. Fast forward to 1999, the Kokomo hum in Indiana actually sparked official US government inquiries. And by 2011, the Windsor hum in Canada had escalated to the point where 22,000 desperate residents dialed into a town hall meeting, literally begging local officials for an answer to this noise that was ruining their lives. To really grasp the true horror of this phenomenon, we have to look closely at the visceral, physical suffering it inflicts on the body. It is absolutely crucial to understand that this is not just a minor annoyance. As the sources note, for sufferers, this phantom noise triggers severe physical reactions. We are talking about chronic, splitting headaches, overwhelming dizziness, inexplicable muscle spasms, and even spontaneous nosebleeds. I mean, imagine a sound so pervasive, so deeply penetrating that it physically assaults your body, while your friends or your family, sitting in the exact same silent room, look at you with polite concern, completely oblivious to the violence you're enduring. That feeling of extreme, agonizing gaslighting is built directly into the symptom profile.
The hum also follows a set of cruel, paradoxical rules that make it uniquely torturous. For one, it's perceived far louder indoors than outdoors. Desperate victims will often spend thousands and thousands of dollars soundproofing their houses. They add double glazing to windows, they heavily insulate their walls. But actually, this makes it so much worse. By stripping away the comforting, normal background environmental noise of the world, they are just left alone in a silent box with the monster. Furthermore, it almost always peaks at night, directly sabotaging any attempted sleep. This leads to chronic insomnia, racing heart palpitations, and just severe psychological isolation. The torment is so absolute, the desperation so complete, that the hum has been directly linked to at least 3 tragic suicides in the United Kingdom. It is a sound that can, quite literally, drive people to madness.
Part 1. The sound of suffering. What exactly are they hearing? If we're going to act as scientific detectives here, we need to establish a precise profile of the perpetrator. What exactly are these victims hearing in the dark? While studies that ask victims to describe the noise show a really striking, overwhelming consistency. 65% describe it as a heavy diesel truck idling in the distance, a low, mechanical rumble vibrating right through the floorboards. 27% say it sounds exactly like a massive electrical transformer humming, and 14% describe the droning of a distant propeller plane that just never seems to land or fly away. It's distinctly industrial, it's mechanical, and it never, ever stops.
But the sheer terrifying scale of this phenomenon is what makes it a global crisis rather than just a localized oddity. If we take that conservative estimate of the global population capable of perceiving this specific low-frequency range, we are looking at roughly 250 million people worldwide who are susceptible to being plagued by this. Think about that for a second. That is a staggering portion of humanity. It's a massive demographic suffering in total silence from an ailment that, for decades, the medical and scientific communities largely dismissed, ignored, or simply couldn't locate.
Part 2. Hunting for external culprits. From the mystical to the mundane.
With a mystery this pervasive, the desperate search for a cause has driven investigators, and the victims themselves, to look absolutely everywhere. And this search splinters into wildly different directions, illustrating the bizarre and often kind of hilarious contrast in how we try to explain the unexplainable. On one side, terrified sufferers latch onto grand sci-fi narratives to make sense of their suffering, right? They're blaming CIA mind control experiments, secret military submarine communications, 5G network grids, or esoteric Mother Earth frequencies. But when scientists actually track down some of these localized hums, the reality is almost embarrassingly mundane. Like in Bristol, the culprit was likely just heavy industrial cooling fans in an Avonmouth warehouse. And in Hythe, researchers traced the relentless droning directly to the mating calls of male midshipman fish, vibrating their swim bladders to attract mates. So yes, thousands of people were driven to the absolute brink of insanity by horny fish.
But localized industrial fans and amorous fish definitely do not explain a synchronized global epidemic. When scientists from the University of New Mexico set up highly sensitive acoustic and seismic equipment inside the homes of the Taos sufferers, the results were incredibly chilling in their emptiness. They were specifically hunting for a physical sound wave in that elusive 32 to 80 Hz frequency range. They meticulously measured electromagnetic fields, seismic shifts, the local power grid, the whole shebang. And what did they find? Zero, nada, absolutely nothing unusual. The scientific equipment registered total, perfect environmental normalcy, while the homeowner standing right next to the microphone was actively gripping their head, being driven crazy by a hum the machines literally could not hear.
Part 3. The gas pipeline syndrome, a nationwide web of low-frequency noise.
Now, before we abandon the physical world entirely, there is one more terrifying external theory we have to cover. What if the monster isn't a localized fan or some invisible alien laser, but the sprawling, interconnected web of our own modern industrial infrastructure? Independent researchers have taken these vast databases of hum complaints and mapped them directly onto the United States grid of high-pressure gas transmission pipelines. And as you can see here, the correlation is incredibly eerie. Almost all of the localized hum reports fall exactly within a tight 5 to 10 mile radius of these massive high-pressure systems. It presents a pretty chilling realization. Is our civilization built directly on top of a vibrating low-frequency drum? The physical mechanics of this theory are absolutely fascinating. It suggests that these massive pipelines emit deep infrasound and low-frequency noise. And these physical vibrations don't just dissipate upward into the air, they actually travel downward through the Earth itself. Geological fault lines, dense bedrock, and underground riverbeds act as natural waveguides, basically channeling these Rayleigh surface waves for dozens of miles without losing their energy. So the theory posits that these deep physical vibrations enter the foundations of our homes, effectively turning our living rooms into massive acoustic resonating chambers. It's a terrifying idea, isn't it? That our own modern technological footprint is invisibly assaulting our sanctuaries.
Part 4. The ultimate biological twist. Looking inward for the phantom pulse.
As compelling as that pipeline theory is, it completely fails to answer one critical, glaring question. It doesn't explain why a husband can be tortured by the sound while his wife, sleeping literally inches away in the exact same supposedly resonant room, hears pure, uninterrupted silence. To solve this mystery, the very first place we need to look is the ear itself. Did you know your ears don't just receive sound, they actually broadcast it? It's true. The human ear contains the cochlea, which is essentially a tiny biological amplifier. As a byproduct of this amplification process, the ear constantly produces its own weak sounds known as spontaneous otoacoustic emissions. Because of this, one major scientific hypothesis was that hum sufferers didn't have a disease at all. They simply had superhuman hearing and were the rare individuals who could physically hear the biological machinery of their own inner ears echoing in the dead of night.
To definitively test this theory, Professor Marcus Drexel and an international team at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology conducted a slow, rigorous, meticulous study in Germany. They placed 28 verified hum sufferers into a highly controlled acoustic isolation chamber, which completely bypassed any possibility of external infrastructure pollution like gas pipelines or wind turbines. First, they methodically tested if these people just had superhuman hypersensitive hearing thresholds. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Then they used incredibly sensitive microscopic microphones inserted directly into the ear canal to measure for those spontaneous otoacoustic emissions. The anticipation for a real answer here was immense, but the results? Completely 100% negative. The sound wasn't coming from the environment, and it wasn't biological noise physically echoing in the ear.
Part 5. The mystery scientifically unmasked. The monster is inside the house.
So during this study, the external room microphones picked up nothing. The internal ear microphones picked up absolutely nothing. The acoustic waves physically did not exist. And this leads to a mind-bending conclusion that completely rips the legend apart. The monster isn't just inside the house, it's inside the host. For the vast, overwhelming majority of sufferers, the hum is an unmeasurable, entirely internal phenomenon. Professor Drexel's team concluded it is a rare, subjective, low-frequency variation of tinnitus. It is an internal phantom pulse generated by a severe glitch in the brain and the auditory nervous system. And because the frequency is so incredibly low and guttural, the brain fundamentally misinterprets it. Instead of recognizing it as an internal biological misfire, the brain actually projects it outward, tricking the sufferer into believing they are feeling the external vibration of a distant, idling motor. It is an inescapable phantom pulse created by your own mind, traveling with you wherever you go, no matter where you hide.
When we finally look at the hard data, the mystery is firmly and finally grounded in undeniable neuroscience and audiology. The frequency is almost always perceived right there between 30 to 80 Hz. It exclusively affects a very specific 2 to 4% of the population saddled with this auditory anomaly, and its origin is strictly the internal auditory pathway. So there is no external wave to measure, there is no massive industrial pipeline to shut down, and there is no secret government mind control array to dismantle. It is simply a biological misfire of the human sensory system at the absolute lowest thresholds of the acoustic spectrum.
But you know, the scientific reality is an incredibly bitter pill to swallow. We really must be deeply empathetic to the sufferers here. Imagine the sheer terror of your own mind inventing a noise that tortures you, a noise that literally no one else can validate or hear. It is profoundly isolating. As the author Jordan Tannehill notes, the hum acts as an empty vessel. For a lot of victims, there's a certain comfort, even a dignity of purpose, in blaming a grand geopolitical conspiracy, an alien interference, or a sprawling industrial pipeline. Blaming an external villain provides a false sense of agency, right? It gives you a physical monster you can point to and potentially fight. Accepting the terrifying reality that the glitch is a permanent, unbreakable phantom pulse generated entirely by your own broken brain, well, that is a much, much scarier truth to face.
Ultimately, the Hume teaches us a chilling lesson about the fragile nature of human perception. It shows us exactly how easily our own sensory systems can turn against us, fabricating a physical reality so incredibly convincing that it drives perfectly reasonable people to the very brink of madness. So I'll leave you with this thought to ponder the next time you find yourself entirely alone in the dark. Listen closely to the silence of your own home. Next time you hear a strange, phantom pulse in the dead of night, will you blame the universe or your own mind? Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Sleep tight.